to Lawrence first. Microphone. Microphone's coming there. Can we have a mic?
It's here.
From the Wall Street Journal, a couple of questions on the statement and then one on the Eastern Partnership. So can we read the statement as saying that the EU would back a military response to the chemical weapons attack if that is what the Americans, the French and others decide to do? And secondly, on the statement, can you tell us, did Mr. Kerry pledge to wait for the inspector's report? And on the Eastern Partnership, you talked about huge pressure. You didn't name Russia, but it's fairly clear that's who we're talking about. Is there anything the EU is prepared to do to prevent that Russian pressure?
3 for the price of 1, Lawrence. First of all, we talk about a clear and strong response. You know the discussions that are currently going on. There were discussions in the G20 meeting. There's discussions going on in the United States this week. I think our voices are clear in saying we want to see a clear and strong response. We've also been clear, too, about the inspectors and the report. On Secretary Kerry, we didn't ask him to pledge anything, and neither should he. It will be for him to report back our discussions to the President of the United States, if he so chooses, and certainly for him to think about what we were saying, and that's for them. And then your third question about external pressure. The point about our relations with our Eastern partners is we want them to be free to make the choices that they wish to make about their economic and political relationships. We would expect them to have good and strong relations with their neighbours, including Russia. And we hope that they will come to Vilnius feeling able and willing to carry on the commitments that they've already made to work closely with us, especially in support of economic life and political reform. And I'm sure Vilnius will be a great success.
Vilnius, Baltic News Service News Agency. From what you said, have you concluded that the mandate from the Security Council is not really necessary for any military actions, as most would say that the absence of such a mandate would mean that there is a breach of international law? Thank you.
Well, I think when you read the statement, and you will get a copy of it very soon, you know, we say in it that we underscore at the same time the need to move forward with addressing the Syrian crisis through the UN process. And we urge the Security Council to unite in its efforts to prevent any further chemical attack and to fulfil its responsibilities. The European Union has always been a strong supporter of the United Nations and of the work of the Security Council. But we recognise also the realities of the situation at the present time. But we still urge the Security Council that, as this report comes out, to fulfil its obligations.
I'll take 2 more. Just, microphone here, please.
Justyna Pawlak, Reuters. We were told by the State Department that Secretary Kerry had urged the EU to put off the planned ban on financial assistance to Israeli organizations working in the occupied territories. And I was wondering what was the EU's response to his request, and also whether in his update on the Middle East peace process, whether he had said that there was any progress in the discussions between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and if yes, in which area?
First of all, I've said it many times, I'll say it again, we pay enormous credit to Secretary Kerry for the determination he's had, not just in his present role, but over many years, to try and support the parties into negotiations. And we were delighted that he joined us in order to say more about his ambition. Inevitably, some of that was not for public consumption, but I remain optimistic that his efforts will hopefully lead to success. In the context of that, he was talking to us about different issues and elements. And I want to reiterate the issue of the guidelines, that this is putting down on paper what is currently the EU's position. But we will be sending a team to Israel on Monday, led by Pierre Vimont, to make sure that in the implementation we're doing so very sensitively. And we, of course, want to continue to have a strong relationship with Israel.
The final question is for Nicholas Busser.
No. Nicholas Busse, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Could you elaborate a little bit what you mean by you note the UN investigations? Does that mean that the EU collectively thinks that any military action should await the end of the release of the report or the interim report, just as President Hollande said, or you're just noting the investigation and you would also accept any military action before the release of the report?
I think what you'll find it says is that we note there's an ongoing investigation. Note is not a particularly interesting word. It just means we note there is one. And we also welcome very much is an addition, my word, President Hollande's statement to wait for this report before any further action. So I think what we're very clearly saying is that we value very much the work of the inspectors. We understand all the information that we currently have. We see the strong evidence before us. And that we very much welcome that President Hollande, in his recent statement, has said he wants to ensure that he's seen that report too.
Thanks very much indeed for coming. As the High Representative says, we will make the text available to you just as soon as we've typed up a nice smart copy of it. So thank you very much for coming.